This video is going to cover me going over problem 18 from your homework assignment from yesterday. So the problem was that you needed to sketch the region bounded by the graphs, write an integral for the area, and calculate the area. So the first thing in sketching the region, you'll see that one equation is linear, y equals negative 2x plus 7, and the other equation is a quadratic, x squared minus 4x minus 1. And when you graph them and put them together, you'll see that the area that we are going to try and calculate is the area between the line and the parabola, and you can see where they intersect on the graph. The next part is to set up the integral for calculating the area between the curves. And so yesterday you learned the formal definition is the integral of f of x minus g of x from a to b, and remember it's always the greater function minus the lesser function, and in terms of that, that means the greater function has the greater y values. So if you're looking at the graph, the linear function has the larger y values compared to the quadratic function. So the first thing is to solve for the limits of integration, and when you do that, most likely you're solving for the points of intersection. So in this case, we're going to set the equations equal to each other and solve for the two x values. When you do that and you factor, you get x equals negative 2 to 4, and so our limits of integration are going to be from negative 2 to 4 on the integrand. The second step is that we want to set up the integral. And so this is where we need to know what function is the greater function and which one's the smaller function. If you have the graph, you can just tell by looking at it which one's the greater because it has the larger y values. But if you don't have a graph, you want to plug in a value for x that is in between the limits of integration. So pick a value between negative 2 and 4, so an easy one in this case would be 0. So I'm going to plug 0 into the first equation for x and 0 into the second equation for x. And with the first equation I get a y value of 7, and with the second equation I get a y value of negative 1. Therefore the linear function is the greater function. So then when I set up the integrand, it's going to go from negative 2 to 4, and it's going to be negative 2x plus 7 minus x squared minus 4x minus 1. And so the third step would be to simplify and solve the integral. So we had it set up where it was the greater minus the lesser. Now you always want to make sure your functions are in parentheses, at least the second one, because you want to make sure that you distribute the negative sign. So then I'm going to subtract x squared, and then I'm going to end up adding 4x because I'm distributing a negative to a negative, and then I'm also going to add 1. And then combine like terms to get my integrand, and that's going to be negative 2 to 4 of negative x squared plus 2x plus 8. When I do the antiderivative and then I plug in negative 2 and 4, I get an area of 36. And that's the end of problem 18. Hopefully this helped you understand a little bit more from the assignment from yesterday.